It was a Tuesday. Not that it mattered much anymore. Ever since James Holloway lost his daughter, time had blurred into one long, gray smear. One day bled into the next. One drink into another. The once celebrated tech billionaire, whose name used a trend on every business headline, had disappeared from public life, swallowed whole by grief, guilt, and silence. Now, he spent his days in his cold, glass mansion perched high above San Francisco, staring out the world he once ruled but no longer belonged to. It was on one of those days, rain splashing against the floor-to-ceiling windows, thunder growling low over the bay, that he first saw the boy. He was standing alone at the bottom of James' winding driveway. No umbrella, soaked to the bone, just standing there, arms at his side, looking up at the mansion. James squinted, then turned away. Probably a prank, or some social media kid trying to get a viral clip. But the boy came back the next day, and the next, always silent, always still, until the fourth day, when James finally stepped outside, anger boiling beneath his breath. "You lost, kid," James barked, rain soaking into his sweater. The boy didn't flinch, just looked at him with eyes too calm, too knowing for someone's age. 11? Maybe 12? "You're hurting," the boy said quietly. James froze. "What did you say?" "You're hurting, but it's not your fault." James blinked. Something about the boy's voice. It was steady but soft, like it came from a place deeper than childhood. It wasn't accusatory. It wasn't pity. It was truth. "You don't know me," James muttered. "I know enough," the boy replied. "Your daughter, her name was Eve." James staggered back. "How the hell do you know that?" The boy didn't answer. He just turned and walked down the driveway, disappearing into the mist like a ghost. That night, James couldn't sleep. He found himself replaying the boy's words, the way his name, Eve, sounded from a stranger's mouth. No reporters had ever dared mention her after the accident. He paid them off to keep it that way. Scrubbed every trace of her from the internet. So how? The next morning, James waited at the window. The boy didn't come. Nor the next day. By day 3, James was a wreck. He canceled a meeting, his first in months. Sat outside for hours, drenched in the cold wind, eyes fixed on the road. Waiting. On day 4, a knock came at the door. James swung it open. The boy stood there, calm, dry, despite the pouring rain behind him. "What do you want from me?" James asked, voice cracking. The boy tilted his head. "You said you'd give anything to undo what happened." James swallowed hard. "I would. Would you give everything?" James hesitated. "Try me?" The boy reached into his pocket, pulled out a small glass marble, and placed it into James' palm. "This will show you the truth. But once you see it, you can't go back." James stared at the marble. It pulsed faintly, like it had a heartbeat of its own. "What is this?" The boy's voice dropped to a whisper. "It's her last memory of you." James looked up sharply, but the boy was gone. The wind howled. The rain fell harder, and the marble in his hand grew warm. As James gripped the marble tighter, an image flickered in his mind. His daughter's voice, screaming in the dark, "Daddy, no!" He dropped to his knees, because he suddenly realized there was more to her death than he remembered. Again, "Daddy, no!" Shattered, desperate. But he didn't remember her ever saying that. Not on the day of the accident. Not ever. He stumbled to his feet, clutching the marble like it might explode. Was this grief messing with him again? A hallucination? PTSD? But it felt different, real. The warmth in his palm didn't fade, and a faint glow now shimmered in the center of the glass orb. Her last memory of you. That's what the boy had said. James stared at the orb. It felt absurd, magical, but he had built an empire on understanding what others called impossible. Still, he hesitated. Then, almost involuntarily, he squeezed it, and the world shifted. The floor rippled beneath his feet. His living room fell away. Darkness enveloped him. Then light, then fire, then screaming. He was inside a memory, not his, but hers. He saw through Eve's eyes, sitting in the back seat of a black Tesla, speeding down the coastal highway. Waves crashed violently against the cliffs to her right. James himself was at the wheel, but this version of him was different. Eyes glassy, voice slurred, laughing manically as he turned the music louder. "Daddy, slow down," she screamed. He didn't. She begged. He mocked her. "Come on, Eve. We're flying." The car swerved. Tires screeched. Then blackness. James staggered back into his body with a guttural cry. The marble tumbled from his palm and rolled across the floor, stopping just at the edge of a framed photo of Eve. Her smile felt like a punch to his gut now. He had told the world it was a malfunction, a brake failure, a manufacturer's defect. He paid his legal team millions to bury it. But now he knew. He was driving drunk. He killed her. And somehow he forgot. His chest heaved. He grabbed a vase and hurled it across the room. Glass exploded. A portrait fell from the wall. But in the silence that followed, the front door creaked open, and the boy stepped in. "You saw it, didn't you?" the boy asked softly. James turned to him, fury and fear in his eyes. "What the hell are you? How do you know this? That wasn't public." "I told you," the boy said, stepping forward. "I'm here to help you heal. But healing starts with the truth." James slumped into a chair. "She's gone. I can't undo that. But you can change what comes next," the boy said. James looked up. "Change how?" The boy reached into his coat and pulled out a small leather-bound book. It looked ancient, worn, but when he opened it, the pages inside glowed faintly. "This book contains a path," he said, "but it requires a price." James narrowed his eyes. "What kind of price?" "Everything." Before James could respond, the boy pressed the book into his hands, and in an instant, the walls began to melt. Not physically, but reality itself began to warp. The mansion faded. The lights flickered. James looked down. His expensive watch evaporated. His designer clothes were gone. He was standing on a dimly lit street corner in New York City. The sound of horns, chatter, and the scent of roasted chestnuts filled the air. "What the hell is this?" James gasped, spinning around. But the boy was gone. Instead, standing in front of him was a younger version of himself. James Holloway, age 23. Wearing the same hoodie he wore the day he pitched his first startup. Only this version of James didn't see him. He was laughing, holding hands with a young woman, Eve's mother. The book pulsed in older James's hand, and suddenly a voice, not the boy's, but something deeper, whispered, "Rewrite, rerun, regret, or restore." The street blurred, time fractured, and James realized with horror, he wasn't just seeing memories anymore. He was being given a chance to relive them. As young James crossed the street, a black SUV came screeching around the corner, heading straight toward him. Older James screamed, but it was too late. Or was it because in the crowd, someone grabbed a younger James's shoulder? It was the boy again, smiling, and he shouldn't be there. The SUV slammed its brakes, tires screaming against wet asphalt. Young James stood frozen. And then the boy reached out, grabbed his shoulder, and time stopped. Literally, the city froze around them. People mid-stride. A pigeon caught in midair. Raindrops suspended like glass beads in the air. Only 3 figures moved. Young James, confused and blinking. Older James, watching from the sidewalk. And the boy, still smiling like he knew something neither of them did. Older James stormed into Frozen Street, shouting, "What the hell is going on?" The boy tilted his head. You were about to lose him. Again. James stared at his younger self. Why is he here? Why am I here? You held the marble, the boy said simply. You accepted the first truth. Now the past is open to you. James glanced around at the frozen scene. So I'm time traveling? No, the boy replied. You're memory traveling, but not like before. This time you can interact, change decisions, heal what was broken. James looked at young James, who now seemed to sense him, eyes squinting, confused. Can he see me? For now? Barely. But he'll remember the feelings, the whispers, the choices. That's how change happens. James gritted his teeth. And what if I don't want to play this whatever this is? I can't fix the past. The boy's face darkened for the first time. "You're not being offered a game, Mr. Holloway. You're being offered mercy. Very few get this." James felt a sharp chill. The boy turned toward the frozen SUV. He never saw it coming, you know. That accident wasn't in the press. You covered it up. James blinked. "What are you talking about?" The boy met his eyes. "Your business partner, Caleb Marks. For years ago. Manhattan." James's blood drained from his face. That was a heart attack. The boy's silence was deafening. Memories trickled back. Caleb had come to confront James that day. About the books, the offshore accounts, the betrayal. But Caleb never made it past the office doors. He collapsed in the elevator. Or so James told himself. "You saw him fall," the boy said quietly. "But you didn't help. You stepped over him and deleted the security footage." James turned away, shaking. "This journey," the boy continued, "isn't about Eve alone. It's about the man you became after she died." Suddenly, the boy held up another marble. This one jet black, pulsing with a deep red glow. "Each marble contains a memory," he said. "One you buried, one you twisted to fit your guilt." The boy tossed it toward James. Against instinct, James caught it, and the world shifted again. Ding. The elevator doors opened to reveal Caleb, clutching his chest, staggering. "James," he gasped, collapsing halfway out. James, dressed in a sharp navy suit, stood just inside, looking down with cold calculation. Caleb wheezed, trying to reach his phone. James stepped on it. Then he reached down, but not to help. He reached for Caleb's wristwatch and slid it off. "You should have kept your mouth shut, Caleb," James whispered. Then stepped back inside the elevator. The doors closed. James snapped out of vision, breath ragged. He fell to his knees. The marble in his hand turned to dust. "I'm a monster," he whispered. "No," the boy said, kneeling beside him. "You're a man who forgot the weight of his choices." James stared at him. "Who are you?" The boy tilted his head. "You haven't figured it out yet?" James shook his head. "I'm not here to punish you," the boy said. "I'm here to prepare you." "For what?" The boy stood. "The final memory." James's heart dropped. "Eve," he asked. The boy nodded. "The moment you forgot. The real one. I already saw it." James said. "The accident." The boy shook his head slowly. "Not the accident. What happened before it." James's eyes widened. Before the accident. That morning. What had happened that morning? Something felt missing. The boy's eyes gleamed. "You've seen the cost of running. Now you'll face the cost of truth." And with that, he handed James a third marble. This one wasn't glowing. It was cracked, flickering, like it barely held the memory inside. James hesitated. "Will this destroy me?" he asked. The boy didn't answer. Instead, he said one final thing as the world around them began to collapse into darkness. "Some truths don't set you free. They make you choose." As James held the flickering marble, he heard a woman's voice, gentle, familiar, and full of pain. "James, if you're seeing this, then it means you finally remembered what you said to me that day." And in the darkness, her face slowly emerged. It was Eve's mother, and her eyes were filled with betrayal. Silence felt like a guillotine. The courtroom, once bustling with whispers and camera clicks, now stood frozen. Judge Horace Alton, known for his unwavering authority and cold stare, blinked. Not once, not twice, but in rapid, almost panicked succession. "How? How do you know that name?" the judge rasped, his voice stripped of its command. "Because she's still waiting for an apology," Daniel said softly, but it echoed like thunder in the stillness. His words weren't a threat. They were a wound reopened. The prosecutor stood halfway up, unsure whether to object or observe. Officer Darla, now standing behind Daniel protectively, looked at the judge with a new kind of gaze. Curious, calculating, human. The name Daniel had spoken, Evelyn Marsh, wasn't on any court record, wasn't in the system, not connected to this case in any way. But Judge Alton knew, and Daniel knew that he knew. 17 years ago, Alton had been a rising attorney in his 30s, drunk on ambition, respected by his peers and blind to his own privilege. He had silenced a small domestic abuse case, one involving a single mother and her 8-year-old daughter, Evelyn. The man Evelyn accused was connected to someone powerful, someone Alton owed a favor, so he buried the case. Evelyn's cries were labeled emotional outbursts. The bruises became discipline marks. The mother was dismissed as unstable. The verdict? Dismissed. Evelyn sent back. The file sealed. A year later, the mother was dead. Evelyn disappeared into the foster system. Alton never spoke of it again, but Daniel had. Somehow, I never told a soul, Alton whispered, barely audible. How the hell do you know this? Daniel looked up, his gaze filled with sorrow, not anger, because Evelyn never got to forget, and she visits me in my dreams. More gasps. The words didn't make sense. Not in a courtroom, not in a rational world. But something beneath those words hit different. You're delusional, Alton barked, but the tremble in his voice betrayed him. The camera zoomed in on his face, the mighty judge cracking in front of the world. Daniel turned to the audience. You think this trial is about a boy who vandalized a statue, but it's about something far deeper. About truth and what it costs to bury it. Then he turned back to the judge and said, "You asked me earlier why I looked at you like I knew you. Because I do." And with that, Daniel walked away from the center of the courtroom, as if he had finished his testimony. Judge Alton adjourned the court in a shaky voice. The room erupted into chaos. Reporters scrambled. The defense lawyer sat back, dumbfounded. The prosecutor looked like she'd swallowed a live wire. As they exited the courtroom, Darla grabbed Daniel's hand. "Who are you?" Daniel simply said, "Someone who listens to the pain most people ignore." Back at the precinct, a call came in from the governor's office. An internal investigation was being launched. Judge Alton's past was no longer sealed. But Daniel's journey was just beginning, because that night, as he sat quietly in his foster home, not a real home, just another temporary roof, another dream came, and in it, a woman with soft eyes and burnt fingers whispered to him, "I need your help. My son is still alive, but they buried him alive beneath the truth." Daniel jolted awake. A new mystery had begun. The next morning, Daniel walked into the police station with a scrap of paper he'd written from the dream. On it, a name no one should know. A murder victim from 5 years ago whose case was closed. He walked up to Darla, handed it over, and said, "He didn't die in the fire. He's alive. They just didn't want him found." Officer Darla stared at the paper, and her face drained of all color, because the name was her brother's, and she had been told he was dead. Officer Darla stared at the name on the paper. Ezekiel Zeke Monroe. Her hands trembled. Her voice broke. "Where did you hear this name?" Daniel didn't blink. "He spoke to me. Last night." Darla stepped back, heart pounding. "That's not funny." "It's not a joke," Daniel said gently. "He told me they lied. That the body in the fire wasn't his. That he's still out there." She gripped the edge of the desk, blood draining from her face. Zeke Monroe was more than just a case file. He was her older brother, a firefighter, the brave one. He died in a warehouse fire 5 years ago, body burned beyond recognition. That's what the report said. That's what she had believed. Until now, Darla rushed Daniel into an empty interview room and locked the door. "No one knew I had a brother named Zeke. His file is sealed off public record." "How did you?" Daniel interrupted calmly. "He told me his badge was stolen, that he tried to expose something. Then someone started the fire and made sure the cameras were off." Darla backed away like she'd seen a ghost, because Zeke had mentioned something like that just a week before he died. A rumor about corruption in the fire department, tied to a construction cover-up. But he never got to explain. And now this boy, this strange, quiet boy, was saying it like he saw it. "I need proof," she whispered. "Anything. Something I can verify." Daniel reached into his pocket and handed her a folded napkin from a school cafeteria. Scrawled on it in childlike handwriting were 3 numbers. 317.89.104. "What is this?" "Coordinates." He said it's where he hid the flash drive. That night, Darla skipped protocol. She drove alone deep into the edge of the industrial district, an abandoned lot that once held condemned apartment buildings. Under a rusted drain pipe, beneath a slab of concrete, just like the coordinates indicated, she found it, a tiny, weather-worn flash drive in a plastic casing. When she opened the files, her breath caught blueprints, emails, bank transfers, and a video. She clicked play. There he was, Zeke, recording himself in a dark storage room. If you're seeing this, I didn't make it out. They're hiding millions in faulty wiring, fake permits, and bribes. Whole buildings are death traps. I've got the proof, but they know I'm onto them. He turned the camera. Behind him were crates, each stamped with city contractor seals. I think they're going to silence me. Then the screen cut to black. Darla sank into her car seat, tears clouding her vision. Her brother had been murdered, and the boy, Daniel, knew before anyone else. This wasn't coincidence. This wasn't guesswork. Daniel was either part of something or something was speaking through him. She had to protect him. She had to help him. Daniel sat on the floor, sketching symbols in chalk. The other kids ignored him now. Some were scared. Some thought he was crazy. But he didn't care, because tonight, someone else was coming. And this time, it wasn't just a ghost. It was a warning. Daniel, the next secret you uncover might get someone killed. He looked up at the shadowy figure in his dream, barely illuminated by flickering candlelight. "Who?" he asked. The figure whispered back, "You." The next morning, Darla entered Daniel's foster home, holding a duffel bag and looking over her shoulder. "I don't care what the station says," she said. "You're coming with me. We're getting to the bottom of this." Daniel grabbed his notebook and simply nodded. But as they stepped outside, a black van down the street slowly pulled away. Inside, two men in suits were already making a call. "We found the boy. He's starting to remember too much. Tell the senator. We may need to intervene." The sun hadn't risen yet when Officer Darla pulled Daniel into the backseat of her truck. She didn't say a word. The weight of what they were doing, hiding a child from a system that claimed to protect him, made every second feel like a stolen breath. But Daniel had already seen what was coming. And the truth was, they were out of time. Inside a dusty cabin Darla's family once used for hunting, Daniel opened a sketchbook. He turned to a page filled with disturbing new drawings. A politician shaking hands with a fire chief. A burning building in the shape of the city's courthouse. A little girl screaming behind a boarded window. Darla with blood on her badge. "They're going to stage something," Daniel said, "to make you look guilty." She shook her head, refusing to believe it. But the flash drive they recovered? It had gone missing from the evidence locker. Worse, her badge had been flagged as the one who logged it out. By noon, local news broke the story. Corrupt cop steals evidence in multi-million-dollar fire cover-up. Photos of Darla flooded the screen. Her badge ID, her car plate, her name. They were framing her, fast, precise, and with money behind it. Darla paced. "I don't have time for this. We need something louder." Daniel nodded. "Then we tell the story through the ones they thought were silent." That night, Daniel lit candles around the small cabin. He knelt in silence and whispered, "I know you're still here. If you were taken, if your voice was stolen, I'll speak for you." The temperature dropped. The wind outside howled. And then the candles flickered one by one. In a trance, Daniel began writing. Page after page. Names, locations, dates, secrets, dozens of victims whose deaths were staged as accidents, all tied to one man, Senator Harold Voss, the same senator whose name was plastered on schools, roads, and hospitals, the same man running for president in the coming election. Darla knew this information wouldn't survive another day if it stayed in her hands. So she made the boldest choice she'd ever made. She sent every page Daniel had written to one person, Ruby Martinez, an underground journalist whose exposés had brought down 2 CEOs and a governor. Ruby was ruthless, fast, and just crazy enough to believe in ghosts. Within 48 hours, Ruby published it all. Files, names, evidence. the missing flash drive contents. Someone had backed it up and sent it to her anonymously. The story blew up. Senator Voss denied everything, but investigations began. His donors pulled out. Whistleblowers came forward. Even Darla's name was cleared as a fall guy. As for Daniel, he vanished from the foster system. Some say he was placed in a witness protection program. Others believe he walked into a storm one night and never came back. But every few years, another fire is put out before it starts. Another secret is uncovered by someone no one can trace. And the victims? They say their names are finally being spoken by the boy who knew too much. If you were hooked by this story, dive into more gripping tales of mystery, justice, and extraordinary. Watch our other storytelling videos, each one crafted to keep you on the edge of your seat. And if you love suspense and real-world twists, subscribe now and turn on notifications so you never miss the next episode. Because some stories were never meant to stay buried.